Episode 7, The First Day. The morning sun hadn't yet cleared the Manhattan skyline when Katherine Morrison walked into Skyward Airlines headquarters, but the building was already buzzing with unusual energy. News of yesterday's board meeting had spread through the executive floors like wildfire, though the details remained murky. What everyone knew for certain was that their CEO had survived a vote of confidence by the narrowest of margins, and that Richard Pemberton's planned workforce reduction had been blocked. What they didn't know yet was why. Katherine stepped off the elevator on the executive floor, acutely aware of the eyes following her. She'd chosen her outfit carefully this morning, a charcoal gray suit with a crisp white shirt, professional but not defensive. The woman who'd spent the last 2 weeks crammed into middle seats and sleeping in airport hotels had been replaced by the CEO they expected to see. But something fundamental had shifted beneath the surface. Sarah Chen was waiting outside Katherine's office, tablet in hand, looking like she hadn't slept much either. "Coffee's ready," Sarah said quietly as Katherine approached. "And you have 17 messages already. Pemberton wants a meeting at 9. Westfield's assistant called 3 times. The Times reporter, Jennifer Walsh, called again. And Detective Morrison from NYPD wants to speak with you about the incident on Flight 2247. Katherine paused mid-step. "Detective Morrison? No relation, I checked." Sarah's expression was carefully neutral, but Katherine caught the concern in her eyes. "He said it's regarding the assault complaint filed by the flight attendant." James Rivera. Katherine felt a knot form in her stomach. The passenger who'd grabbed James's wrist, the one she'd witnessed firsthand during her undercover operation, had apparently drawn official attention, which meant James had filed a formal complaint, which meant there would be questions, investigations, documentation, all of which could expose her presence on that flight. "Schedule the detective for this afternoon," Katherine said, pushing open her office door. "After I meet with Pemberton. And Sarah, pull the complete incident report for Flight 22247 to Atlanta. I want to review it before I talk to anyone." Sarah nodded and followed her inside, closing the door behind them. The moment they were alone, her professional mask slipped slightly. "How are you holding up?" Katherine set her briefcase down and moved to the window, looking out over the city. Somewhere down there, James Rivera was probably starting his day, maybe heading to LaGuardia for an early shift, unaware that his CEO had witnessed his humiliation firsthand. Somewhere, Gloria Martinez was checking in passengers at a gate, still dealing with the impossible metrics that forced her to treat people like cattle. Somewhere, Marcus Chen was prepping a plane for departure, knowing that one mechanical failure could end his career because the company had eliminated the margin for human error. "I have 2 weeks to prove that everything I've built my career on was wrong," Katherine said quietly. "How do you think I'm holding up?" Sarah moved to stand beside her. "You have 2 weeks to prove that doing the right thing can also be the profitable thing. That's different." "Is it?" Katherine turned to face her assistant. "Sarah, I sat in that boardroom yesterday and told them I'd show them returns on investment in employee satisfaction. I promised them metrics and data and quarterly improvements. But what if I can't? What if the only way to fix what's broken is to accept lower margins, smaller dividends, slower growth?" "Then you accept it," Sarah said simply, "and you make your case anyway. That's not how boards work. That's not how shareholders work. That's exactly how leadership works." Sarah's voice was firm. "You went undercover because you knew something was wrong. You survived that vote of confidence because you showed them evidence they couldn't ignore. Now you have to show them the solution, even if it's not the one they want to hear." Katherine studied her assistant's face. 31 years old, brilliant, loyal to a fault, and apparently more courageous than her CEO. "When did you get so wise?" "I've been watching you for 3 years," Sarah said, "learning what kind of leader I want to be someday. Yesterday, in that boardroom, you finally became that leader." The intercom buzzed before Katherine could respond. "Miss Morrison, Richard Pemberton is here for your 9 o'clock. Katherine checked her watch. It was only 8:15. "Tell him I'll be ready at 9. He says it's urgent." Of course it was. Katherine exchanged a look with Sarah, who raised an eyebrow. "Want me to stay?" "No, But pull those incident reports and start putting together a timeline of every discrimination complaint filed in the last year. Cross-reference it with HR's responses and any follow-up investigations. Looking for patterns? Looking for proof that this isn't just a few bad apples. This is systemic, Sarah. I saw it. I lived it. Now I need to document it in a way that even Westfield and Pemberton can't dismiss. Sarah nodded and headed for the door, passing Richard Pemberton as he strode into the office without waiting for an invitation. The CFO looked like he'd had about as much sleep as Katherine, which was to say, almost none. But where she'd chosen professional armor, he'd gone for aggressive casualness. No tie, sleeves rolled up, the posture of a man ready for battle. "We need to talk," he said, not bothering with pleasantries. "Good morning, Richard." Katherine moved to her desk, deliberately taking her seat before gesturing to the chair across from her. "You're early. I'm trying to save this company from a catastrophic mistake." He remained standing. "Katherine, I've run the numbers 6 different ways. There is no scenario where your employee investment initiative generates positive returns in 2 weeks. It's impossible." "Then I suppose I'll have to do the impossible." "This isn't a joke." Pemberton's voice rose. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Westfield is already talking to other board members. He's got 3 votes lined up for a special meeting to revisit yesterday's decision. You blocked the workforce reduction. Fine. But you can't block reality. Our cost structure is unsustainable. Our competitors are running leaner operations with better margins. Every quarter we delay makes our position worse." Katherine leaned back in her chair, studying him. She'd worked with Richard Pemberton for 5 years. He was brilliant with numbers, ruthless with costs, and genuinely believed that his approach was best for the company. He wasn't evil. He was just so focused on the spreadsheets that he'd forgotten the people behind the numbers. "Richard, tell me something. When was the last time you flew on one of our planes? Not in first class on a corporate ticket. When was the last time you bought a ticket, stood in line at the gate, sat in a middle seat in economy?" He blinked, thrown by the question. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything. It has to do with everything." Katherine stood, moving around the desk to face him directly. "You're right that our cost structure is unsustainable, but you're wrong about why. We're not spending too much on employees. We're spending it wrong. We're cutting frontline staff while expanding middle management. We're reducing training budgets while increasing compliance departments. We're nickel and diming flight attendants over meal allowances while executives expense $1,000 dinners. Those are completely different budget categories. They're all the same money, Richard, and they're all sending the same message, that the people who actually serve our customers, who actually operate our planes, who actually represent our brand every single day, they don't matter. They're line items to be minimized." Pemberton's jaw tightened. "I never said they don't matter. You didn't have to say it. Your budgets say it, your policies say it, your metrics say it." Katherine felt the anger rising, the frustration of 2 weeks watching good people ground down by systems designed to extract maximum efficiency at minimum cost. "Do you know what our average flight attendant makes? $38,000 a year. Do you know how many hours they work unpaid? Every minute they're at the airport before boarding, every minute after landing. Do you know how many of them have second jobs just to make rent?" "Katherine, I understand you're upset about whatever you saw during your investigation. But emotional decisions don't fix financial problems. We have obligations to our shareholders. We have obligations to everyone who makes this airline run." Katherine's voice cracked like a whip. "Shareholders? Yes, but also employees, customers, communities. We can't keep pretending that maximizing shareholder value justifies treating everyone else like they're disposable." Pemberton stared at her, something shifting behind his eyes. "You've changed." "Yes, I have." Katherine took a breath, forcing herself to calm down. "Richard, I'm not asking you to abandon financial discipline. I'm asking you to help me find a better way. 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking for. Help me prove that investing in our people can actually improve our bottom line. And if it doesn't?" The question hung in the air between them. Katherine thought about James Rivera, about Gloria Martinez, about Marcus Chen, and all the others whose names she didn't know, but whose struggles she'd witnessed. She thought about the passengers she'd sat beside, the families trying to travel on a budget, the business travelers just trying to get home. "If it doesn't, then I'll resign," she said quietly. "I'll step down, and the board can choose someone who will implement your cost reductions without hesitation." Pemberton's eyes widened. "Katherine, but if it does work, Richard, even a little bit, then you have to promise me you'll look at every policy, every metric, every budget line through a different lens. Not just how much does this cost, but what does this cost us?" He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Finally, he nodded slowly. 2 weeks. But Katherine, I need you to understand something. Westfield isn't going to wait patiently. He's already positioning this as a battle between fiscal responsibility and emotional management. He's going to use every day of those 2 weeks to build his case that you're unfit to lead this company. Then I'd better make sure I have a better case. Katherine moved back to her desk, pulling up her calendar. "I need you to set up meetings with every department head. I want to review their budgets, their staffing models, their operational challenges, and I want to talk to frontline employees from each division, not managers, actual workers." That's going to raise questions. Good. Let it raise questions. It's time this company started asking the right ones. Pemberton headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, what you did yesterday took guts. I don't agree with your approach, but I respect that you're willing to stake your career on it." After he left, Katherine sank into her chair, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the board meeting and this confrontation was fading, leaving behind the weight of what she'd just promised. 2 weeks to transform an airline. 2 weeks to prove that doing right by employees could be profitable. 2 weeks to either save her career or end it. Sarah returned with a thick folder. Incident reports from Flight 2247. "Katherine, there's something you need to see." Katherine opened the folder, scanning the documentation. James Rivera's formal complaint was there, detailed and professional. But there was also a witness statement from another passenger, a woman who'd been seated in first class, who'd apparently recorded part of the incident on her phone. The same incident Katherine had witnessed firsthand. "The detective is going to want to interview witnesses," Sarah said carefully. "Anyone who was on that flight." Katherine's mind raced. If they started pulling passenger manifests, if they started interviewing people, someone would eventually connect the dots. Karen Miller, the woman in seat 32B, would come up in the investigation. And while David Morrison had created a bulletproof cover identity, it wouldn't survive serious police scrutiny. "When is the detective coming?" 3 o'clock. Katherine checked her watch. She had 6 hours to figure out how to navigate this conversation without either lying to a police officer or exposing her undercover operation before she was ready. The phone on her desk rang. Sarah glanced at the caller ID and her expression tightened. "It's Jennifer Walsh from The Times." Katherine stared at the phone, thinking about everything that could go wrong, everything that was already going wrong, everything she'd set in motion by refusing to stay silent. Then she thought about James Rivera's face when that passenger had grabbed his wrist, about Gloria Martinez apologizing to angry passengers for policies she didn't create, about Marcus Chen's quiet fear that one mistake would end his career. She picked up the phone. "Miss Walsh, this is Katherine Morrison." "Ms. Morrison, thank you for taking my call." The reporter's voice was professional but eager. "I understand there was a significant board meeting yesterday. I'm hearing rumors about a vote of confidence, a blocked workforce reduction, and some kind of internal investigation. Would you care to comment?" Katherine looked at Sarah, who was shaking her head frantically. The smart move, the safe move, was to say no comment and hang up, to let the company's PR department handle it with carefully crafted non-statements that revealed nothing. But Katherine was done with safe moves. "Ms. Walsh, I'm not ready to give you a full statement yet, but I will say this. Skyward Airlines is undergoing a comprehensive review of our operational practices, our employee policies, and our corporate culture. In 2 weeks, I'll be prepared to discuss our findings and our plans for reform. If you're interested in a real story about corporate accountability and what it takes to fix a broken system from the inside, I'd be happy to give you an exclusive interview at that time. There was a pause on the other end. An exclusive interview with the CEO of Skyward Airlines about internal reforms. Ms. Morrison, are you serious? Completely serious. 2 weeks. But Miss Walsh, when we talk, I'm going to tell you everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. If you're looking for a puff piece or corporate spin, you should find another source. I'm an investigative journalist, Miss Morrison. I'm looking for the truth. Then we'll get along just fine. My assistant will be in touch to schedule. Katherine hung up and met Sarah's stunned expression. You just promised an exclusive interview to the New York Times, Sarah said slowly, about internal reforms that don't exist yet. While Westfield and Pemberton are actively trying to remove you, and while you're under investigation by the police for an incident that could expose your entire undercover operation. I know. Are you trying to get fired? Katherine smiled, and it felt genuine for the first time in days. No, Sarah, I'm trying to make it impossible for them to fire me without looking like exactly what they are. Executives more interested in protecting their positions than fixing what's broken. That's actually brilliant. Or completely insane. I'm not sure which. Probably both. Katherine stood, gathering the incident reports. Set up those department head meetings starting tomorrow. And Sarah, find James Rivera's schedule. I need to talk to him before the detective does. Katherine, if you contact him directly, it could look like you're trying to influence his statement. I'm not going to influence anything. I'm going to apologize. Sarah's eyebrows rose. Apologize? For being the CEO of a company that put him in that position in the first place. For creating a culture where passengers think they can assault employees without consequences. For every policy and metric and cost reduction that told him his dignity was worth less than a quarterly earnings report. Katherine's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. I'm going to apologize, and then I'm going to ask him to help me fix it. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. Katherine reviewed budget reports with new eyes, seeing the human cost behind every line item. She talked to department heads who were simultaneously relieved that the workforce reduction had been blocked and terrified about what came next. She felt the tension crackling through the executive floors, the sense that something fundamental had shifted, and nobody quite knew what it meant. At 2:30, Sarah appeared in her doorway. James Rivera is here. Katherine's heart jumped. I thought I was meeting with the detective at 3. You are, but Mr. Rivera asked to see you first. He's in the lobby. Katherine stood slowly, smoothing her suit jacket. This was it, the moment when she'd have to face someone who'd witnessed her at her most vulnerable, who'd shared truths with her that he'd never have shared with the CEO of Skyward Airlines. Someone who might hate her for the deception. Send him up, Katherine said quietly. And Sarah, give us privacy. Sarah nodded and disappeared. Katherine moved to the window, trying to steady her breathing. She'd faced down her board of directors yesterday, had staked her career on a promise she wasn't sure she could keep, had committed to exposing every broken system in her company. But somehow, this felt harder. The door opened behind her. Katherine turned to see James Rivera, standing in her office doorway, still in his Skyward uniform, his expression carefully neutral. Mr. Rivera, she said, thank you for coming. He stepped inside, and she saw him take in the office. The expansive view, the expensive furniture, the photographs of her with politicians and celebrities and industry leaders. Everything that marked her as exactly what she was, someone from a completely different world than the one he inhabited. Ms. Morrison. His voice was polite, professional, and completely devoid of the warmth she'd heard when he'd talked to her as Karen Miller. Your assistant said you wanted to see me before I talked to the detective. I did, but not for the reason you might think. Katherine gestured to the seating area by the window. Comfortable chairs, not the formal desk setup. Please, sit. He remained standing. With respect, ma'am, I'd prefer to stand. I have a flight in 3 hours. The formality stung, but Katherine understood it. She'd lied to him, even if it had been for what she believed was a good reason. She'd sat beside him, listened to his stories, witnessed his struggles, all while hiding who she really was. James, she said quietly, dropping the formality, I know you probably hate me right now, and you have every right to. But before you talk to the detective, before this becomes official and complicated, I need to tell you something." His jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. "I was on flight 2247 to Atlanta, seat 32B, middle seat, economy." Katherine watched his eyes widen with recognition. "I saw what that passenger did to you. I saw how you handled it with more professionalism and grace than he deserved. And I saw how our policies, our metrics, our entire corporate structure put you in an impossible position." James stared at her for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight with controlled anger. "You were there. You saw it happen, and you did nothing." "I did nothing then," Katherine corrected quietly, "but I'm doing something now. James, I went undercover in my own airline because I knew something was broken, but I didn't understand how deep it went. Now I do. And I'm going to fix it, or I'm going to lose my job trying." "Why should I believe you?" The question wasn't hostile, just tired. "Do you know how many times corporate has promised to fix things? How many surveys we've filled out? How many focus groups we've sat through? How many times we've been told our feedback matters? Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever gets better." "You're right, and I'm part of why." Katherine moved closer, meeting his eyes directly. "I approved budgets that cut your training. I signed off on metrics that made your job impossible. I listened to consultants instead of employees. I chose shareholders over the people who actually make this airline run. I did all of that, James, and I'm sorry." He blinked, clearly not expecting an apology. "You're sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm asking for your help." Katherine took a breath. "I have 2 weeks to prove to my board that investing in employees is more profitable than cutting costs. 2 weeks to show them that treating people with dignity and respect isn't just morally right. It's good business. And I can't do it without people like you telling me the truth about what needs to change." James was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Finally, he shook his head slowly. "You're really serious about this. Dead serious. And if you can't prove it in 2 weeks, if the board decides that cutting staff is still the better option, then I resign, and you'll have a new CEO who'll probably be worse than I was." Katherine's voice was steady. "But I'm not planning to fail, James. I'm planning to win, and I need you on my side to do it." He studied her for another long moment, then finally moved to sit in one of the chairs. "Tell me about your plan." Katherine felt something loosen in her chest. Not quite hope, but maybe the possibility of it. She sat across from him and started talking, laying out everything she'd learned, everything she planned to change, everything she needed from frontline employees to make it work. And for the first time since she'd returned from her undercover operation, Katherine Morrison felt like she might actually have a chance.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.